All right, excellent afternoon to all those watching us across the states in Nigeria. They say Africans are great and Africans are champions. Some historians believe the world evolved from the black race. Guys, I'm not here to, how will I put it now, to campaign for races, but also I'm here to actually give an opening shot to black race. And I am saying never let anyone belittle you. You are great and limitless to yourself, in yourself. It's important for me to emphasize on that. Again, I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener and, of course, chief host of this platform, Kike Atanda-Owo. And I think it's important for us to hear what on this day in history segment as for us. Let's listen to this. And when I return, I'll give my own insights on the segment. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
On this day in history, December 12, 1968, Arthur Ashe becomes the first man of African descent to be ranked #1 in professional tennis. The U.S. star is a direct descendant of Amar, an enslaved West African woman brought to America in 1735 on the slave ship the Doddington. Ashe's family were kept as slaves by Samuel Ashe, the governor of the state of North Carolina, and they were given his surname.
All right, many thanks for staying with me. I think my submission on this day industry segment is the fact that authors accent to tennis greatness as the first African descendants, resonates deeply in Nigerian or with Nigerians and of course across Africa. It symbolizes triumph over years of historical oppression, or not only oppression as well. As Africans, what limits us is not our skin color or the tribal marks on the face by the thoughts of the thought of some leaders in the past or in Africa, or the thoughts in our heads. But we are limitless and powerful in everywhere we step our feet. I think that's my message on this day in history segment. On this note, this is time for us to quickly get a message from my sponsors. When I return, the main conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Of course, in this third installment of the series, I continue my commitment to acknowledging and celebrating the remarkable contributions of journalists and media professionals in Nigeria over the past 365 days. And in my previous episodes, I had the exclusive honor of bringing two media giants, that is Dr. Ruben Abati, and of course Babajide Otitoju, to gain their insights on issues that affect us all. And the focus of this episode is on the unique perspective, and of course their experiences of what has happened to Nigeria, and that is still happening in Nigeria. And of course today I have another distinguished media administrator and broadcaster. Is also a professional in this field when it comes to media practitioner, and of course he is here to enlighten us and educate us on Nigeria, on issues that affect us all in Nigeria, and of course with his works as the general role, and of course a media and the MD of Inspiration FM, while on airwaves as well, because for his record as the MD of Inspiration FM, I feel at 92.3, I think it's important for me to also emphasize on his role on live radio, drive time talk shows, being the first media house opening its arms to Real Talk with Kike as well, over the last almost 5 years now. And I must say that my guest today was actually part of the inception of the birth of Real Talk with Kike. In fact, I think it was my first or second guest on Real Talk with Kike on radio. But guys, we'll get to that. Let me hold my breath and let's get to see his profile. When I come back, we'll unveil my guest. If you're not following me on socials, you will see my guest, and we can the conversation will continue from there. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me, and I must say welcome to the show, Azu. It's a pleasure to have you on Real Talk on TV, because you've always been a part of Real Talk with Kike from day one, like I said earlier, before bringing you into the studio, and you're more like a host, if I must emphasize on this show. My guest, how are you doing today, my darling brother? It's so good to have you on the show.
I'm very glad to be here with you, Kike. I saw the interviews with Dr. Abati and with Mr. Otitoju, and I said my turn now. Moreover, Real Talk has had its debut on radio. We enjoyed it. I think I'm glad to be on the TV show.
Yeah.
Real Talk with Kike as well.
Thank
Interesting
you so much.
times. Yes.
Thank you so much, my brother. And let me start from this, because you've had, an extensive career in journalism. And I must ask you, how has the industry been thus far, especially when it comes to the early days to your current role as the MD or the group general manager in Inspiration FM 92.3 station? I know it's a family station, and quite a number of people sometimes want to relate the station to religion. How has it been thus far with your experience?
Yeah, it has been a long journey, really. 2 decades plus, you know, my career spanning from just out of school into journalism and broadcasting. Of course, I caught my feet with this Silverbird radio station, 93.7 Rhythm FM. That's where I caught my feet. I was there for almost 9 years, you know, before, of course, Inspiration happened, and we joined, and consistently over the last 15 years, we've been doing broadcasting and journalism on radio. You know, my simple joy is when I wake up in the morning and I come on radio, that people will have to hear new things from me, things that they didn't hear when they went to bed. You know, breaking news, interviews with the people that matter, and generally inform people, educate them, and when we need to do, entertain them as well. So it's been some good journey, but there have been changes across the years. Kike, when we started journalism in the early 2000s, it was a lot of work was basically reportorial. If I want to interview you, I will go to your office, or I will go to your house. I put my midget, I talk to you. These days, there's a convergence. You know, there's a major convergence. We can do interviews from Texas, you know, from this studio, and we haven't met before. You know, so I think that change is what we have tried to adapt to. And for Inspiration FM, there's a small misconception around the brand, you know, Inspiration, because the name Inspiration sounds like it can be gospel. It's not gospel. You know, I don't think the regulators, even the NBC, can give you a gospel license. It's a general radio station. And if you have listened to our brand, most of our stations, Last Giddy in Lagos, Inspiration in New York, Inspiration in Ibadan, and 92.3 Inspiration in Lagos, you see the concept is a modern family radio that caters to almost everyone, from 9 to 99, as they say. Everybody will have something there for you. Family, entertainment, sports, and heavy on politics, you know, and that's why I really feature on politics, a lot of it.
All right, many thanks for that elaborate insight regarding your career path, your growth, and of course, and the brand itself, Inspiration FM. And I like the fact that you've carried us through all of that, and you said that, you know, people look forward to hearing new things from you. I must emphasize and say on this platform that you are the image maker of Inspiration FM, and that is the honest truth. It's not because of my closeness with you, because many a time I've received feedback and people are saying, oh, even when you're missing on air, people are just telling me, I did not hear you today. So I want you to tell us about, you know, all out politics with shows, with Azu Osumili. You know, what do you aim to achieve, you know, with this program, and how do you think that you've been able to engage your audience thus far, with the fact that people are always looking forward to hearing new things and without any bias? What would you say is the aim or the impact of this all-out politics with Azu has brought thus far to Nigerians?
See, Kike, I learned from the best. I always say that, and I try to acknowledge this my masters anytime I talk to people about, you know, how I have come through my career, spanning about 24 years now. You know, people like the late Momo Kubanji, I don't know if he was also on this station, the radio, the current head of news for this radio station, Mustafa Issa, former president of Nigerian Guild of Editors, another of my mentors, Mr. Charles Kalu. These were the people whom I learned journalism under. And it was journalism the good old way, the traditional way, the journalism that's based on facts, nothing else. You know, the truth and facts, no bias. You must present all sides, all views. And that's what has really pushed me, you know, throughout my career. And when we're building towards the 2015 general elections, you know, I decided to create a political show in the evening on radio, because we generally just do the news and then we analyze the news and we go home. I thought that maybe I should create a special program that focuses essentially on politics, public policy, and national security. So we bettered all our politics with Azu Osumili. And that program, for 1 hour every evening, became like a melting pot of the day's political stories. You know, and we had interviews. Almost everyone that is important in this country politically, we have tried to bring on the show and interview. And you know why all our politics became very popular? It was the last show of the day for radio. Probably the last. We have done the newspaper review in the morning, we have done all the news broadcasts we used to do, and then when it comes to late evening, just before you pack your car and say, my days, then we'll bring all our politics, and mostly they were breaking news. You know, there was a story about INEC, you know, cancelling one political party candidate. There was one interview with one politician jumping parties, you know. So it's always very interesting. And we've sustained that show now for the best part of 8 years, every day on radio, Monday to Friday.
So the best part of 8 years, as far as I'm concerned, talk radio has been on there for over a decade. And I must ask you, what challenges, because I don't like to refer to them as problems, I see them as challenges, you know. What are the challenges and the rewards that you think that you have encountered in hosting all of these programs, with the nature of the program itself? Because it's not easy with all the every stakeholders in the country wanting to say, okay, this is my opinion, sometimes even imposing their opinion on you. How have you been able to say that, okay, I'm holding my grounds, and the challenges that comes with it, and of course the reward that comes with it, with your personality? How do you think this has contributed to shaping Nigeria as a whole?
You see, one thing I also learned as an editor is being the gatekeeper. You know, I am like the sieve, you know, that sieves through some of the best information, you know, that we need to dish out. Sometimes the information that come out are not very credible. They are the opinions of people who claim to be newsmakers that they want to push down the throat of listeners. And you stand as the gatekeeper and say, no, this cannot happen. It's a challenge, because sometimes you don't get it through. You don't succeed in trying to present, you know, all sides, all views, for various reasons. Reasons include the fact that, you know, you can't get a balance because it's difficult to get a balance. I invite a politician to come and explain why he has not been able to react to allegations that he was involved in a corruption scandal. He promises to come on the show live, and the show starts at 6 o'clock. At 5:50, his phone's off. And I've already done a promo to say, you know, his phone is off. You never get to reach him. He gives you all kinds of numbers, including numbers of his aides. You call and call and call. So when you come on air at 6 o'clock, and it's already something, because you have to promote this day so that your audience is ready, you know, you begin to explain that I can't reach him, you know. And then you go ahead and try your best to the best way you can present that show to accommodate all sides of views. And as the show ends at 7 o'clock, he calls you and tells you that his lawyers will contact you because you have defamed him. This is somebody you spent almost all day trying to get his own side of the story, promised to get on it, and he never came. So these kind of challenges are there every time. There are sometimes the simple challenges of technology. I cannot come to Abuja and interview you, so I want to do this interview via phone. And then the networks come about 6 o'clock.
So
I never allow you to enter. But the rewards have been plenty.
Yeah.
But I think the reward is always for me. The personal satisfaction I get that our listeners have been able to get new information. Something that I probably did not know. That I brought it to them and I've been able to present it for them to make up their mind what they will. I'm sure one line that people quote me with: make up your mind what you will. But I will be able to present to you all sides, all views. That is one of the many successes that I've gained. Of course, at the other side, it makes you simply popular. One day I was walking into the airport and somebody was calling my name, shouting my name, and I said that, how do you know it was me? He said, because I didn't speak, I work on radio. They say our radio don't change. They watch you for Facebook.
Streaming live.
They're streaming live,
Yeah.
So all of those things are part of some of the small, satisfaction one to get by doing this job. Sometimes the job can be thankless, but we strive because, like I tell my colleagues, when I go on leave, after the first week, I want to come back to work because I miss radio. I want to be there every day. I want to be able to say, this is what I'm giving every day. It's not easy a lot of times, Kike, but, you know already. You can relate.
I can relate, and obviously your contribution to shaping public discourse is endless because I'm an ad fan of your work as well. But I must ask you, as a recognized journalist, what role do you think that or do you believe that the media practitioners have to play in shaping, the societal perception of Nigeria, especially when it comes to politics, when it comes to governance, and when it comes to national security? Because I feel that Nigeria as a whole, the onus is on us, even as media practitioners, to say that we want to shape the thoughts of how international global stage sees us. So particularly in Nigeria, I feel that the negatives are so much that sometimes it overshadows the good. What's your advice to the media practitioners?
Kike, bad story sells fast. News that is not so good is what a lot of people use to get the clicks that they want. But in the end, we have a personal responsibility, not just as journalists, but also some of us at management level, at editors level, to show responsibility, especially on matters of national security. You just can't throw it out there. Absolutely. You just can't have a story that's breaking, that something has happened that borders on national security, and you say breaking news. You can't do that. When you do that, first you compromise national security because this information goes out, everybody gets them. Second, you are likely, to cause, people reacting, badly to such situations. So you manage that kind of situation, and that's why we always say that, before you break a story, ensure that it's factual enough to have been confirmed by not just one source, but multiple sources. So you talk to people that have been directly affected by this situation, and you get them to explain why. A simple example: what happened last week with the Tudumbiri incident, the drone attack by the army, the unfriendly fire incident. When that story broke on Monday morning, as I was going to the studio for the big story I do at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, I already have it. But there was no confirmation. The only thing I had was the Air Force saying we did not carry out any attacks in that area for days. That was the only information I had. So I restrained myself. I said until we have further facts about this situation, I'm not going to break this story. When I finished at 6 and I went in for the newspaper review at 8, the situation was still the same, fluid, and I refused to talk about it until after I'd left the studio, entered the newsroom, and then we saw the Army statement confirming that they take responsibility. So at that point, we put out the story to say the Army has taken responsibility for this issue. To run and break that story the way it is without, getting sources confirming it is just likely to compromise things. And national security matters, I think, are the most important ones because it affects almost everyone and it has some global implications, you must agree.
Many thanks again for that elaborate submission out there. And you know that on this platform, we keep it real because we all know that there are biases, with the work of journalists, especially. Either from us, journalists ourselves, or from the media houses themselves that have aligned with the government, and all of that, So I must ask you, how should we practitioners glide in between those biases and, of course, to achieve the professionalism that comes with our work, especially which I feel that is a greater standard, you know, in delivery of our work compared to the biases that either we as journalists bring to fore, or the media houses that we work with in terms of the alignments that they have with the government or the current government or the past administration. What's your advice for us?
I think just resist temptation to be biased. It's as simple as that. It's very hard, you know, you must agree, because there are various interests. There's interest of ownership, you know, for those of us who work for people. There's the interest of your natural biases, you know, and this happens a lot, you know. There are times when I finish a show and somebody calls me and labels me a political party member, you know. They say, and sometimes some who accuse directly of having taken money, you know. But you have to resist that temptation of bias, because the rule is there. The cardinal rule for journalism is barefaced facts. Opinions are free, but facts are indeed sacred. So you must stick with the fact. Some people will not like it. Some people will interpret your facts, you know, as biases. But if you are convinced within yourself that your facts are your facts and they're verifiable, I think whatever anybody says, you know, is something you can wish away, because you know that you have gone, you know, without your biases. But a lot of journalists are indeed biased. Sometimes we have seen journalists who behave like politicians, you know, when they begin to interpret the politicians' own thoughts and opinions and pass it out as fact. These things happen, yes, you know. But I think for professionalism, you know, journalists should try their best and resist the temptation to show or have biases when it comes to issues, you know, that affect the general population.
Fantastic insights right there as well, you know. But, you know, we've had many events within the course of 2023.
Busy year.
And those causes, you know, include the change in administration from President Buhari to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As a journalist with insights, with a lot of information, with facts, I must emphasize on facts, because, you know, you've been able to describe the future with our own what's it called, individual contribution as we move forward in our country. But given all these events that took place or unfolding, they are still unfolding day by day, what's your take thus far with all the events that took place in 2023 with the current administration, and what brought them into power, and how can we actually make sure that people actually follow suit with the order of law, with the court of law, which I feel that most administration, both past and present, are still struggling with? What's your views on this?
See, Kike, I will agree with you. 2023, perhaps one of the most busiest years for Nigeria in history, and not just politically, economically too. Remember, we started this year with the Naira crisis. Remember, that was the build-up to the general elections, the Naira crisis. You know, the CBN rules that had to go to the Supreme Court, you know, where APC governors went to challenge the CBN governor and the president. That was a very big issue in this country, you know, and I thought that event in itself had the capacity to change the course of history for this country, you know, if not well managed. Eventually, I think it ended, you know, the way it ended, and then the elections entered, you know, and for the elections too, we'll agree, you know, that is one of, this election of 2023 was perhaps, you know, I've covered elections since 1999. 2023 was, for me, the most, for lack of word to use, the strongest elections in terms of contest. And I think this was because of the entry of the Labour Party candidate in the presidential election, Mr. Peter Obi. He had a momentum that probably wanted to change the narrative, you know. It was a difficult one for the traditional parties to cope with.
Absolutely.
And you can say at the end of the day, the PDP could not cope with it, you know. And with very small numbers, President Tinubu of the APC won the elections, you know. I think those events really shaped 2023. Even before INEC started counting the results, there was already controversy. Remember the Nobelaya at the Collation Center?
Absolutely.
You know, that was where it started. And then INEC and the IREV, the reactions were big. Nigerians had a lot to talk about, you know. And then President Tinubu took power, and then on the very first day, the swearing in, subsidy is gone. You know how that played out. That became the next big issue.
The subsidy that President Buhari couldn't actually take charge of.
President Buhari couldn't remove it in 2022 because he read the room. You know, and he got advice from his people who told him, if you remove subsidy, there's likely going to be a crisis that we cannot manage. So he left it for Tinubu. And I think Tinubu was convinced within himself that I cannot continue to manage this subsidy. Whatever will happen, I prefer that situation than to continue with subsidy. I think it was courageous for him to have been able to do that on that day. And the repercussions were, I think, he's still managing to cope with. A lot of Nigerians basically simply don't trust the new government because of that subsidy removal. Because with the subsidy removal, the promises were plenty. At the moment, I don't think Nigerians are seeing those promises.
Also part of his campaign message as well. So that's actually true.
Everyone campaigned to remove subsidy, yes, but nobody thought that he was going to remove it immediately. Nobody thought that he was going to say it on the podium on May 29 at the Eagle Square. And then the repercussion of subsidy removal means petrol prices skyrocketed. And Nigerians now knew what it means to buy petrol for more than they were buying it. So I think economically that impacted, and it also has some social-political effects, because every time you talk the politics of this country, people remind you that President Tinubu removed subsidy, and Nigerians, because of that single reason, are suffering, a cost of living crisis. So I think from the Naira redesign policy to the elections and the post-elections removal of fuel subsidy are the three biggest issues in the country this year. And then, of course, when the elections as well went to court, you see, went up to the Supreme Court. It divided Nigerians along various lines, but I think at the end of the day we'll unite back, and 2024 might be a better year.
We hope so. We pray so, because
I don't foresee as much events in 2024 as we saw in 2023.
Fantastic submission right there. We'll go on a quick break, and when I return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, glad to know you're still right there with us. In case you just tuned in, this is Interviewing the Interviewer series on Real Talk with Kike. And this second segment, I will continue to delve into the experiences and personal perspective of my guest, who is, mightier than what you can think, and for lack of a better word right now, especially when it comes to shaping the narrative about Nigerian globally. And my guest is none other than Azubike Osumili. He is the MD and Group General Manager of family radio station Inspiration FM 92.3. And I must say many thanks thus far for all your insights, your contribution, lending your voice to issues that affect us all. It's been very interesting listening to you, directly. Sometimes you think that you have all the pieces of someone until you hear from them. And I must say many thanks for keeping it real on this platform. But let me use this opportunity to quickly open the phone lines. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 080-988-77400. And of course, it's showing on your screen right now. We're streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, both on Silverbird platform and on Real Talk with Kike. So, Azu, thank you so much again. I want to thank you for creating time to be on the lunch show. I believe that this is our lunch time right now.
It is lunch.
Yeah. So, going straight to the back to the conversation, because I would like you to bring to fore the balance. Because how do you balance your role as the MD, the group general manager of Inspiration FM, and at the same time your on-air presence? Because I feel that analyzing programs like pay-per-view, all out
politics,
big
story.
And so many other. How do you balance being an on-air, having that on-air presence, and at the same time managing all the administrative work around you?
It's a lot. It's a lot. I must confess, Kike, it's a lot. My day starts at 4:30. And luckily for me, yes, it's the same way, for most of us. And then because I live very close to the office, I'm in the office in 30 minutes, and I begin to prepare for the big story at 6. Of course, I start preparation the night before I have a producer. I do that, and then come back for the newspaper review at 8. And also analyze what the papers are saying. And then I get to my desk, and there's a lot of work. 4 radio stations. Daily management of these stations, thinking and executing strategy, because we need to make money. What's happening with the media industry. The media industry is one of the most affected by the slump, by the global economic slump. And locally, it's even worse in Nigeria. Media spend have reduced. The impact of digital media has also reduced income for media organizations. So it's a continuous thinking process, of devising strategy to ensure that we ends meet, and running a business, in urban Lagos is not a piece of cake. There's a power problem, so you are almost running almost 24 hours on diesel. You know the price today. So all of those things are not easy. But I see that I have a very good team. I have a good team of accountants, a good team of my marketing people, and my other staff, the guys in broadcast operations, you know, a good team. So most times I just give instructions and review, you know, performance indicators, you know, but a lot of time too, I delve into the deep, you know, I go to the market myself, try to meet the people, and then come back. I leave the office at 8 p.m. almost every day. So Monday to Friday, 5:30 to 8 p.m. That's how we run it. But it's been good because for me it's passion, simply passion.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about what I do, so I probably love it. I love it, so I'm there to do all that. I try to find a balance, you know, but most times that's when you ask for me when I'm not around, because I've traveled out of town, you know, attending meetings outside Lagos, you know, even outside the country, and sometimes working for the station in our outstations. We have a station in Uyo, we have another one in Ibadan, you know, and most times I spend my time in Abuja as well, where you have the headquarters of the regulator, the MDC, and of course most government institutions. So yeah, I try to find a balance. I do find a balance, but I spend most of my time in Lagos.
All right, with what you've shared right now, can you particularly share that challenging or memorable moment in your career path that you think left you a lasting impact, you know, as a journalist? Because all the things that you've shared right now, with the nitty-gritty of every day trying to meet up with the marketing, to finance, you know, being on air as well, and leaving Lagos to different branches where, you know, you guys have what's it called, stand, you know, and all of that, you know. So that moment that you think that, you know, that you can say that, oh, this can either make me millions elsewhere if I have another career, or you feel that, okay, like you've said now, that the passion is what drives you, or you think I'm born to do journalism regardless of the pay and the likes and all of that. I'm just trying to get you what you know. Before you answer that, I understand that we have a caller. Apologies. Many thanks for calling. What's your name and where you're calling from, please?
My name from Satellite Town.
Sir, thank you.
Yeah, I'm one of the early listeners every day on Inspiration, and this time we discussed. Once again, I'm still as well as fantastic journalism. I appreciate all of you. I'm always Inspiration in the evening, in the morning, every time. As well, hello.
I see you. I hear you, my friend.
Many thanks, sir.
Thank
Many
you.
thanks, sir.
After going to school and the rest, and he even finished from this secondary school in Korea and the rest of them.
Okay. Maybe his daughter went to school. My daughter, maybe.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, what's that moment that you feel that, you know, is either journalism or nothing? Even if I have another opportunity to be in another career path that will be fetching me millions of money, what's your response to this?
Because I think it's, for me, that's basic satisfaction of being able to be in control of disseminating information. And it's a touch and go moment for me, because I always tell myself that go fit really do another thing. So, you know, to be hard, you know, for instance, a lot of my friends, the guys I went to school with, about 80% of them live abroad now. You know, they joined the jackpot generation, as it were. Most of my friends tell me, you're wasting your time in that country, you know, you should have come, you know. And I ask myself, when I go to the abroad, what will I do? Do they have a radio station there like Inspiration FM or like Rhythm FM? What will I really do? That has a lot of times, you know, pushed me back, you know. And I've always insisted to my family that I think we will rock it out here, you know, on the simple basis of me being a journalist. It will be hard to do something else that can give me the kind of satisfaction or that I would love so much, like I'm doing this. And one of the moments for me was in 2007. You know, I had traveled to Katsina to cover the presidential elections, the one that brought President Yar'Adua in. You know, and after the elections that day, you know, at night, a few journalists were allowed access to the late former president, and I interviewed him at that moment, you know. And for me, that was the real big push for me, that interviewing, it was clear I was going to win the presidency. You know, interviewing a would-be president, for me at that point, set me in motion. I told myself that I will go to the end of this career. I will do everything. I will interview more presidents, you know, and I will, you know, enjoy these moments after I finished that interview. It was supposed to be with a group of journalists, but it became a one-on-one, because most of the journalists were probably newspaper journalists who, you know, they were okay with the quote, but I sat back, brought out my midget. You know, even though those days you don't record with phones, you put a midget, and we had a chat that lasted 10 to 12 minutes, you know, and it was the moment for me in 2007.
Interesting. And I feel that with all that you've shared thus far, you know, I want us to take another scenario, especially when it comes to media houses, you know, facing sanctions, fines, you know, especially in the President Buhari's era, because of what they were reporting, you know, about the country's true events, because I like to emphasize on that word, true event, which I feel that the administration at the time was uncomfortable. You know, being a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, you know, what responsibility do you think, or do you believe editors have to maintain regarding their journalistic integrity, and of course, when it comes to positive change in the society at large? Because I feel that most administrations do not like journalists actually presenting the true event of what is happening at the moment. What's your advice for them, you know, as an editor?
Yeah, they will gag. They will always gag. They will be uncomfortable. Yeah. They will even come with sanctions. They will threaten. What did you do this? You know, happens, you know. But I think journalism with responsibility is still the key. You know, try your very best to ensure that in doing the things that will make most governments uncomfortable, you know, you still have facts. You don't over-elaborate. You don't say things that are not fact-based, you know, and when you have say these facts, please have evidence, because when they come for you, evidence will save the day. I'm a customer, you know, in being an editor and a radio manager. I've been a customer of the regulators many times, you know, in cases where, you know, I have sat down and submitted that we'll go to court if this is how you want to go about this. We're ending court.
So yeah, I'm also one of the people who believe that let's meet in court.
Let's meet in court and resolve this there. But I've always found a need to always also talk. You know, and there was a time the president of Nigerian Guild of Editors, you know, initiated good opportunities to be able to discuss these issues with the authorities. When Alhaji Lai Mohammed was Minister for Information, the media had it very, very rough with the regulator, because it keeps insisting, you know, on sanctions that most times we see as unnecessary. You know, but we managed with the regulators to always talk this thing out and resolve them. There are times when we have to pay fines. You know, some of these things can happen in the course of broadcasting. You know, mistakes can be made. Sometimes your reporter can over elaborate. You know, and you can even on the marketing side make a mistake about, you know, hyping something you shouldn't hype, and the regulator comes for you. But I think at every time we talk, because you cannot blame the media too much. The media has a responsibility to its audience, to its listeners, to also say the truth, no matter who feels uncomfortable about it.
Many thanks again for that insight right there, your truthful submission thus far. And your program, Pay-Per-View, I would like to touch on that, because, you know, most times I tune in to say that I want to hear from you when it comes to Pay-Per-View, the headlines, you know, and all of that, which involves reviewing newspapers and all of that. How do you see the role of traditional print media today, you know, evolving in the digital age, and of course the challenges that come with it, especially when it comes to the opportunities as well, that you know, does not, you know, present the journalists properly when it comes to what's it called, the digital technology or the digital space at the moment. What's your take thus far with this? You know, knowing that you yourself are coming from a place of as a columnist, so to speak. You know, what's your take thus far?
Kike, the media has evolved. It has revolutionized.
Many places technology.
Yes, and the printed paper, the newspaper, the printed copy is an endangered species. I cannot remember the last time I saw a printed newspaper. 3-4 years ago, we used to buy the newspaper to do paper review. We used to buy physical papers. Our team that's coming to work in the morning at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., under a Pongbom Bridge, they collect newspapers. You know, 3, 4, 5 years ago we stopped because we went digital. You know, the newspaper presenter presents the newspaper from her phone. You know, she looks at her phone and gets the front pages in color, you know, like that. That is the evolution that has happened to the newspaper. You know, and in many places in the world, in the big places, United States, United Kingdom, I think they have printed their last papers. You know, they don't print anymore. Everything has gone digital. It is the convergence. And I think media organizations have to embrace that convergence. You know, that we have moved away from printed paper and we have converged in the digital era. And most Nigerian newspapers have recognized that fact. I don't think even the ones that print, you know, they do more than they used to do 3-4 years ago. You know, the numbers have indeed reduced because the digital age has changed everything. The newspaper is in your palms, you know. So that's one of the things we have recognized, you know, as presenters and analysts of newspaper review. I read all the newspapers on my phone. all of them on my phone before I come to work. You know, the day's newspapers are there, even the foreign ones. You know, so I've subscribed to the New York Times, for instance. I'm a subscriber. I read most of the foreign stories.
So are you saying that, because I feel that there are pros and cons to this, because as far as I'm concerned, I feel that technology is also what has affected the youth of today, or maybe me not pointing fingers at the youth, people not actually paying attention to writing and reading, because everybody is looking at technology as something that they can easily get the information at their fingertips. How can you use this medium to educate the youth of today, especially when it comes to abbreviation, when it comes to reading and writing and getting a book? You know, not necessarily everything you have to go to Okada, what's it called, app and all of that. Then what's your advice for that?
I think too that the cultural change that's happening with this need for convergence should also throw away the fact that the old traditional way still work. You know, for instance, I read a book. I read the physical book. It will be hard for me to read a book on the Kindle, like most people do. It will be, a friend of mine reads all his books on the Kindle. I say, oh, that one will hard. You know, because before I go to bed at night, at least 2-3 pages. The book I'm reading now, Brutally Frank, the autobiography of Biden Clark. The book is as big as this, but I try and manage even at night, you know, to go through those. The only way I can read a book, you know, the things are changing digitally. You know, so we see newspapers on our phones, we read the headlines. You can even click on it and it opens the pages for you. But we must not throw away that old culture of the physical book. It's eroding fast, you know, but we must teach our, for instance, I tell my children to read the physical book. I buy them books from time to time and say, you must finish it, you know, and we'll talk through the pages together.
And there's a lot of distraction on this phone.
On this phone, there are.
You're reading a book
and the WhatsApp comes in.
And that's it. All right, many thanks, many thanks. I think this might be my last question to you, because I would like you to emphasize again, as an extensive career person who I feel that, you know, your voice in shaping Nigeria is really important. You've contributed to the development of this country, I must emphasize. And with all that you've shared thus far when it comes to your role in the media space in Nigeria, and especially when it comes to the policies, the development, national security, name it, you are a voice that has to be reckoned with, that has to be reckoned with. So what do you think the future holds for this industry, the media space, and of course, in terms of collaboration with the government?
Collaboration with government is usually one of the things we advocate. You know, when we talk, especially at our conferences, the Nigerian Guild of Editors, we try to look at opportunities where the government can also help the media grow by simply policies that favor the media, you know. And I think that's the area where this will grow. The media and the government must see themselves as partners. In a lot of, during the elections, especially this year, it didn't look like that. You know, the media appeared to be, you know, adversaries instead of partners. I think, you know, while they cannot be partners on everything, there must be a point where they meet and agree on issues. Again, because of national development, deliberate, yes, national development and public policy. And I think that's what we talk about every time. Even the Guild of Editors, you know, there are times when we invite government officials to come and speak to us about issues that affect the media, you know, and the entire industry. And we get what we want. So I think that further collaboration on those regards will really help. You know, they must not see themselves as adversaries. You know, partnership that works is better.
All right, many thanks again for all your submission thus far. But before I let you go, there's a last segment of the show that I call Trending Story. These are stories that binds us together as Nigerians. And the first trending story that caught my attention is that of the Kike, Fubara, APC and PDP in Rivers State, you know, politics. And I think before I come to your submission, let me quickly say this, because there's a lot brewing in Rivers State right now. For those who have been following Kings in the fracas, maybe that's the word, the fracas that took place at the State Assembly in Rivers State, you know, where followers of Fubara and Kike clashed, and what we see that for a political fraction in the state is already in a swing of events that is that is not slowing down anytime soon. And in this latest report from Rivers State, I know that about 27 lawmakers aligned with the former governor of Rivers State, that's Governor Kike, that defected to the APC, causing divisions, you know, within the PDP camp, you know, that led by Martins, I think. and their failed attempt, you know, to impeach Governor Fubara is also something that I'm looking. I don't want to say I'm looking forward to, you know, and I feel that it's intense. So it's so intense that the crisis, you know, is leading to a divided assembly and the fire rising in the building. And I'm asking myself, is that the legacy we want to leave for the youth who are watching us, that sees us as a leader? Because those are part of the issues that I felt that I had challenges with during election. Despite President Bola Ahmed Tinubu even intervening, you know, the tension that have persisted amidst all these reports, you know, or the disputes between Fubara and Kike, you know, resulting in fractions, you know, you know, factions in the political landscape of the state. I think one thing that I would like to really emphasize on this platform is almost certain that among all of this, Kike is gradually defecting to APC.
It looks like that.
It looks like that. We may see that clearly in weeks to come with all that is happening right now. But this is politics in play, and the effect of godfatherism, if you ask me. And I'm not after who is right here. I must put it out there. I'm not after who is wrong. In what is more concerned to me is about the impact and the goodwill that they are bringing to fore. You can belong to any party with a name or without a name, but what concerns the people of Rivers State and Nigerians as a whole is give them good governance. Impactment of good governance or impact of good governance should be felt positively by the people. And I feel that the masses should not be seeing all the fighting and the burning of buildings, unrest all over the place. You know, we saw all of this as during the elections, yeah? And that actually affected me mentally. I must emphasize on this platform. So rather than the masses, you know, seeing all of that, can you bring in civility? Can you bring in peace? Can you bring in good standard of living? You know, good health, provision, education, namely solid infrastructure and improved welfare. I feel that is what the people want to see. That is what Nigerians want to see. That is what the people of Rivers State want to see. This is my message to political gladiators. We all know that. Again, I'm being careful. I want to, you know, measure my thought properly when it comes to the kind of film that is going on right now with Kike and Fubara, how it will end. But it is not the first story that would emerge with, you know, godfatherism and all of that. But we have seen all these political gladiators always fighting for their own selfish interests, and we know that there are permanent enemies of friends amongst them. But there is no point, I must emphasize, there is no point that the masses should suffer for their games and antics. Please, what's your take on this?
You know, yeah, you have hit the nail on the head. The people of Rivers deserve better. They deserve good governance. They deserve social infrastructure. They deserve economic infrastructure. They deserve good governance that impacts them positively. But unfortunately, that's not what is going to be happening in Rivers State for the years to come. Okay? Because the reality is that the political gladiators there are only interested in their own interests. And they will tell you, politicians like this phrase, you know, that no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. They will tell you that. They say it all the time. And if you see what's happening in Rivers, it's the politics of interest, you know. The godfather, the former governor, Nyesom Wike, who is now FCT minister, is still very much interested in what's happening at home. You know, he wants to be able to control the political life of Rivers State. And appears like his godson governor, you know, does not want that to happen. At least he's trying to stand up to be his own. And there's a new development today. The High Court in Port Harcourt has recognized the speaker of the faction that are only 4 members, you know, and has told Martin Amoiwule of the 27 members not to parade himself as speaker. So this matter will end up in court. They will end up in court. You know, there will be talk around. So what happens to the people? The people suffer. Oh my goodness. That's it. Governance suffers. You know, while this is ongoing. That's why it's an unfortunate situation, really. But this is what politicians do. They do it a lot. You know, they do it in many states. You know, there are some governors who don't stand up, so we'll never get to know how big the scandal it is. You know, but they do it a lot. Look at Ondo State. It's still the same situation in Ondo State. You know, until this afternoon, we hear that the governor has now ordered that power is transmitted to the deputy and has gone abroad to medical emergency. But that fracas also dominated the news since July. So politicians will be politicians.
Yeah, politicians will, and unfortunately the people of the state actually suffers. But let me touch on the second trending story quickly before they start running commentary in my ears. The fact that, you know, CAF award, that's
CAF awards, yes.
You know, that Asisat, I think.
Asisat Oshoala, Victor
Osimhen, amongst other, make Nigerians proud at CAF Awards. And I said this at the beginning of the show that Africans are great. I must emphasize again, Africans are the champions. You know, Nigerians are the champions of that Africa, and we all know that, yes, because I'm Nigerian as well. So in this historical sweep at the 2023 CAF Awards,
yes,
you know, Victor and of course Asisat as well, you know, emerged as the men's and women's player of the year, you know, respectively, marking the first time a country produced both winners in 2023 and women's national team of the year event to Nigeria, and 2023 women's goalkeeper of the year was also won by
Nigerian Chiamaka
Nnadozie, and of course and Osimhen, you know, also the accolade broke, you know, in terms of a long-standing Nigerian that brought that I think that brought a lot of after
Can 1.99
since, you know,
24 years.
Yes,
24 years.
And Women's Player of the Year title, you know, solidified as well as the Africa's most successful women's player. You know, I feel like a woman right now. You know, I'm happy to be a woman. I've seen the likes of Moabu doing Ngozi Iweala in the last few days being celebrated. Seeing this in the sports industry, knowing that I've also contributed to that sports industry as well. I have over 24 boys, you know, globally who are doing well, who were, you know, brought in from grassroots of Nigeria, from different states as well. So these remarkable achievements were mentioned by the president as well. I must chip this in, who also commended their dedication, their humility, you know, and their acknowledgement of, you know, indigenous coaches as well. So including women's skippers of the year, you know, that's Chiamaka, you know, I just feel that the national pride right now, you know, I've served a lot of inspiration for aspiring footballers in terms of the, you know, continent worldwide, and I feel that the president, that him expressing hope during this period is also something that I also like the fact that, you know, he has actually shown in terms of hope, you know, which has become a catalyst for success for the likes of Osimhen and Oshoala and all of that. So despite the minor setback with Deborah, you know, I must emphasize, when I was reading that, I felt that the Pari Abiodun's loss, you know, but Nigerians football have triumphed you know, we like to underscore, you know, the nation's potential for greatness, urging young talent. I think I need to emphasize on that, the young talent of today across disciplines to strive, you know, for excellence, and of course embrace their roots. So that's my message to the youth right now who are actually listening to or watching right now, that it's important for you to stay consistent at everything that you do, and remember that your time will come. You will be celebrated for it. Doing what is wrong or getting famous for negative things is what brings pain to you and your family. So it's important for you to nurture your talent, your skills, and unimaginable powers, you know, will come your way, and you will see how you will be celebrated. The sky is just free for all of us to fly and shine. You know, I like to always use this platform to always, you know, pass a message to the youth, because I feel that with the emergence of technology, it has brought a lot of distraction to the youth of today. So it's important for you to understand that your works in life and the world will come to appreciate you and celebrate you when you remain consistent at what you do without not bringing any ills alongside. Quickly, in 30 seconds or 1 minute, what's your take on it?
I think it's a proud day for Nigeria. Victor Osimhen, Asisat Oshoala, Chiamaka Nnadozie, even Deborah that did not win. You know, proud moment for Nigeria. You can see that across the country, people are rushing about themselves to congratulate them. I congratulate them from here. And I think that one day Victor Osimhen probably will the best footballer in the world, man. You know, what they call the Ballon d'Or.
Absolutely. Many thanks, my brother. You know, it's an honor that during the course of my career path, you know, I met solid men like you who have given me support. Let me use this opportunity to thank you.
Yeah, you know, your show runs on our station as well.
Yes, of course.
You'll talk with Kike on radio.
You'll talk with Kike on radio. And I must say many thanks for the partnership. Many thanks for always lending your voice. And of course, always there to actually guide me through. I want to thank you so much, you know, because my reversion to media, you know, radio was very new to me.
Yes.
I was on print, on
It's
TV,
superstar now.
and all of that, but radio was new. Thank you so much for all that you've done.
It's super OAP now.
With that, we come to the end of another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. And of course, you can catch me live on Inspiration FM tomorrow at 5 p.m. your drive time talk show. Again, many thanks to our resourceful guest Azu for being on this platform and lending your voice at issues that affect us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'll be glad to come again another time.
All right, we're bringing it back. You heard it from the horse's mouth. Thank you so much. I'm buying now.
All right.